Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate
16.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Good one. Narayanam Namaskritya Dhanam Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam from the 6th Canto. We're in the first chapter and we're taking up just after where we left off yesterday. We'll be at text number 16. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuranmilitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasa Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. My dear King, if a sinful person engages in the service of a bona fide devotee of the Lord, and thus learns how to dedicate his life unto the lotus feet of Krishna, he can be completely purified. One cannot be purified merely by undergoing austerity, penance, brahmacharya, and the other methods of atonement I have previously described. Purport. Tat Purusha refers to a preacher of Krishna consciousness, such as the spiritual master. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has said, Chadiya Vaishnava Seva Nisthara Payeche Keva. Without serving a bona fide spiritual master, an ideal Vaishnav, who can be delivered from the clutches of Maya? This idea is also expressed in many other places. Srimad Bhagvatam 5.5.2 says, Mahat Sevam Dvaram Ahur Vamukte. If one desires liberation from the clutches of Maya, he must associate with a pure devotee, Mahatma. A Mahatma is one who engages 24 hours daily in the loving service of the Lord. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9.13, Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim prakritim ashrita Bhajantyananya manaso gyatva bhutatim avyayam. O son of Pṛthu, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine nature. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Thus, the symptom of a Mahatma is that he has no engagement other than service to Krishna. One must render service to a Vaishnava in order to get freed from sinful reactions, revive one's original Krishna consciousness, and be trained in how to love Krishna. This is the result of Mahatma Seva. Of course, if one engages in the service of a pure devotee, the reactions of one's sinful life are vanquished automatically. Devotional service is necessary not to drive away an insignificant stock of sins, but to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. As fog is vanquished at the first glimpse of sunlight, one's sinful reactions are automatically vanquished as soon as one begins serving a pure devotee. No separate endeavor is required. The word Krishnarpita Prana Krishnarpita Prana refers to a devotee who dedicates his life to serving Krishna, not to being saved from the path of hellish life. A devotee is Narayana Parayana or Vasudeva Parayana, which means that the path of Vasudeva or the devotional path, in his life is his life and soul. Narayana Parayana Sarve Na Kutashchana Pipyati. From Bhagavatam 6:17-28. Such a devotee is not afraid of going anywhere. Who spoke the verse? 6:17-28, without looking. Or asking AI. It's Lord Shiva. Thank you. 50 points in the back. Whoever said that, I can't see you. There is a path toward liberation in the higher planetary systems, and a path toward the hellish planets. But a Narayana Para devotee is unafraid wherever he is sent. He simply wants to remember Krishna wherever he may be. Such a devotee is unconcerned with hell and heaven. He is simply attached to rendering service to Krishna. When a devotee is put into hellish conditions, he accepts them as Krishna's mercy. Tatenukampam susamikshamana. He does not protest, "Oh, I am such a great devotee of Krishna. Why have I been put into this misery?" Instead, he thinks, this is Krishna's mercy. Such an attitude is possible for a devotee who engages in the service of Krishna's representative. This is the secret of success. Text 17. The path followed by pure devotees who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and it is authorized by the Shastras. Purport. One should not think that the person who takes to bhakti is one who cannot perform the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Karma Kanda section of the Vedas or is not sufficiently educated to speculate on spiritual subjects. Māyāvādīs generally allege that the bhakti path is for women and illiterates. This is a groundless accusation. The bhakti path is followed by the most learned scholars, such as the Goswamis, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Ramanujacharya. These are the actual followers of the bhakti path. Regardless of whether or not one is educated or aristocratic, one must follow in their footsteps. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. One must follow the path of the Mahajanas. The Mahajanas are those who have taken to the path of devotional service. Shushila saravo yatra narayana parayana. For these great personalities are the perfect persons. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinshana sarvarnastatra samasate sura. One who has unflinching devotion to the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. The less intelligent, however, misunderstand the bhakti path and therefore allege that it is for one who cannot execute ritualistic ceremonies or speculate. As confirmed here by the word sudrichinaha, bhakti is the path that is appropriate, not the paths of karma kanda and jnana kanda. Māyāvādīs may be sushila sadhava, well-behaved saintly persons, but there is nevertheless some doubt about whether they are actually making progress, for they have not accepted the path of bhakti. On the other hand, those who follow the path of the acharyas are sushila and sadhava. But furthermore, their path is akutopaya, which means free from fear. One should fearlessly follow the 12 Mahajanas and their line of disciplic succession and thus be liberated from the clutches of Maya. My dear king, as a pot containing liquor cannot be purified even if washed in the waters of many rivers, non-devotees cannot be purified by processes of atonement even if they perform them very well. Purport. To take advantage of the methods of atonement, one must be at least somewhat devoted. Otherwise, there is no chance of one's being purified. It is clear from this verse that even those who take advantage of karma kanda and jnana kanda, but are not at least slightly devoted, cannot be purified simply by following these other paths. The word prayaschittani is plural in number to indicate both karma kanda and jnana kanda. Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, karma kanda, jnana kanda, kevala vishera bandha. Thus, Narottam Das Thakur compares the paths of karma kanda and jnana kanda to pots of poison. Liquor and poison are in the same category. According to this verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, a person who has heard a good deal about the path of devotional service, but who is not attached to it, who is not Krishna conscious, is like a pot of liquor. Such a person cannot be purified without at least a slight touch of devotional service. The gain is just slightly high. Let's get a little hum on the top there, that's why. Although not having fully realized Krishna, persons who have even once surrendered completely unto his lotus feet and who have become attracted to his name, form, qualities, and pastimes are completely freed of all sinful reactions, for they have thus accepted the true method of atonement. How many times? Who said once? 50 points. I'll read it again because we're distracted by the hum. Although not having fully realized Krishna, just hear this carefully. Although not having fully realized Krishna, persons who have even once surrendered completely unto his lotus feet and who have become attracted to his name, form, qualities, and pastimes are completely freed of all sinful reactions, for they have thus accepted the true method of atonement. Even in dreams, such surrendered souls do not see Yamaraj or his order carriers who are equipped with ropes to bind the sinful. Purport, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 1866, Sarva dharman prityaja mamikam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. This same principle is described here. Sakrinmana Krishna Padara Bindayo. If by studying Bhagavad Gita one decides to surrender to Krishna, he is immediately freed from all sinful reactions. It is also significant that Shukadeva Goswami, having several times repeated the words Vasudeva Parayana and Narayana Parayana, finally says Krishna Padara Vindayo. Thus he indicates that Krishna is the origin of both Narayan and Vasudeva. Even though Narayana and Vasudeva are not different from Krishna, simply by surrendering to Krishna, one fully surrenders to all his expansions, such as Narayan, Vasudeva, and Govinda. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.7, Mattak paratanam nanyat, there is no truth superior to me. There are many names and forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is the supreme form. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, Krishna recommends to neophyte devotees that one should surrender unto him only, ma may come, because neophyte devotees cannot understand what the forms of Narayan, Vasudeva, and Govinda are. Krishna directly says, ma may come. Herein, this is also supported by the word Krishna Padara Vindayo. Narayan does not speak personally, but Krishna or Vasudeva does, as in Bhagavad Gita, for example. Therefore, to follow the direction of Bhagavad Gita means to surrender unto Krishna, and to surrender in this way is the highest perfection of Bhakti Yoga. Pṛthu Mahārāja had inquired from Shukadeva Goswami how one can be saved from falling into the various conditions of hellish life. In this verse, Shukadeva Goswami answers that a soul who has surrendered to Krishna certainly cannot go to Naraka, hellish existence. To say nothing of going there, even in his dreams he does not see Yamaraj or his order carriers who are able to take one there. In other words, if one wants to save himself from falling into Naraka, hellish life, he should fully surrender to Krishna. The word sakrit is significant because it indicates that if one sincerely surrenders to Krishna once, he is saved even if by chance he falls down by committing sinful activities. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:30, Apichit sudaracharo bhajate mam ananyabhag satureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisaha. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. If one never for a moment forgets Krishna, he is safe, even if by chance he falls down by committing sinful acts. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita 2:40, the Lord also says, Neha vikramana shosti pratyavayo navidyate swalpamapyasya dharmasya trayate mahato vayad. In this endeavor there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Elsewhere in the Gita 6:40, the Lord says, Nahi kalyana krit kaschit durgatim tatra gacchati. One who performs auspicious activity is never overcome by evil. The highest kalyana, auspicious activity, is to surrender to Krishna. That is the only path by which to save oneself from falling down into hellish life. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has confirmed this as follows. Kaivalyam narakayate tridashapur akasha pushpayate durdantendriya kala sarpa patali prokata damstrayate vishvam purna sukayate vidimahen dradishakitayate Yakarunyakataksha Bhagavatam Tam Gaurameva Stuma. Chaitanya Chandamrita 5. The sinful actions of one who has surrendered unto Krishna are compared to a snake with its poison fangs removed. Protkata damstrayate. Such a snake is no longer to be feared. Of course, one should not commit sinful activities on the strength of having surrendered to Krishna. However, even if one who has surrendered to Krishna happens to do something sinful because of his former habits, such sinful actions no longer have a destructive effect. Therefore, one should adhere to the lotus feet of Krishna very tightly and serve him under the direction of the spiritual master. Thus, in all conditions, one will be akutapaya, free from fear. Akutopaya. Text 20. In this regard, learned scholars and saintly persons describe a very old historical incident involving a discussion between the order carriers of Lord Vishnu and those of Yamaraj. Please hear of this from me. Purport. The Puranas, or old histories, are sometimes neglected by unintelligent men who consider their descriptions mythological. Actually, the descriptions of the Puranas, or the old histories of the universe, are factual, although not chronological. The Puranas record the chief incidents that have occurred over many millions of years, not only on this planet, but also on other planets within the universe. Therefore, all learned and realized Vedic scholars speak with references to the incidents in the Puranas. Srila Rupa Goswami accepts the Puranas to be as important as the Vedas themselves. Therefore, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he quotes the following verse from the Brahma Yamala. Shruti smriti puranadi panchratra vadimbana ekantiki harir bhaktir utpatayai vakulpate. Devotional service of the Lord that ignores the authorized Vedic literatures like the Upanishads, Puranas, and Narada Pancharatra is simply an unnecessary disturbance in society. A devotee of Krishna must refer not only to the Vedas, but also to the Puranas. One should not foolishly consider the Puranas mythological. If they were mythological, Shukadeva Goswami would not have taken the trouble to recite the old historical incidents concerning the life of Ajamila. Now the history begins as follows. Text 21. In the city known as Kanyakubja, there was a Brahmana named Ajamila who married a prostitute maidservant and lost all his Brahminical qualities because of the association of that low-class woman. Purport: the fault of illicit connection with women is that it makes one lose all Brahminical qualities. In India, there is still a class of servants called Shudras, whose maidservant wives are called Shudranis. Sometimes people who are very lusty establish relationships with such maidservants and sweeping women, since in the higher statuses of society, they cannot indulge in the habit of woman hunting, which is strictly prohibited by social convention. Ajamila, a qualified Brahmana youth, lost all his Brahminical qualities because of his association with a prostitute, but he was ultimately saved because he had begun the process of bhakti yoga. Therefore, in the previous verse, Shukadeva Goswami spoke of the person who has only once surrendered himself at the lotus feet of the Lord, Manat Krishna Padara Vindayo, or has just begun the bhakti yoga process. Bhakti yoga begins with Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, hearing and chanting of Lord Vishnu's names, as in the Mahamantra, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chanting is the beginning of bhakti yoga. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declares, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Rameva Kevalam, Kalo Nastyeva, 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 Gatiranyata. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the only means of deliverance is chanting the holy name of the Lord. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. The process of chanting the holy name of the Lord is always superbly effective, but it is especially effective in this age of Kali. Its practical effectiveness will now be explained by Shukadeva Goswami through the history of Ajamila, who was freed from the hands of the Yamadutas simply because of chanting the holy name of Narayan. Pṛthu Mahārāja's original question was how to be freed from falling down into hell or into the hands of the Yamadutas. In reply, Shukadeva Goswami is citing this old historical example to convince Pṛthu Mahārāja of the potency of bhakti yoga, which begins simply with the chanting of the Lord's name. All the great authorities of bhakti yoga recommend the devotional process beginning with the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. Tanama grahanadi bhihi. Text number 22. This fallen Brahmana, Ajamila, gave trouble to others by arresting them, by cheating them in gambling, or by directly plundering them. This was the way he earned his livelihood and maintained his wife and children. Purport. This verse indicates how degraded one becomes simply by indulging in illicit sex with a prostitute. Illicit sex is not possible with a chaste or aristocratic woman, but only with unchaste Shudras. The more society allows prostitution and illicit sex, the more impetus it gives to cheaters, thieves, plunderers, drunkards, and gamblers. Therefore, we first advise all the disciples in our Krishna consciousness movement to avoid illicit sex, which is the beginning of all abominable life, and which is followed by meat-eating, gambling, and intoxication, one after another. Of course, restraint is very difficult, but it is quite possible if one fully surrenders to Krishna, since all these abominable habits gradually become distasteful for a Krishna-conscious person. If illicit sex is allowed to increase in a society, however, the entire society will be condemned, for it will be full of rogues, thieves, cheaters, and so forth. 23. My dear king, while he thus spent his time in abominable sinful activities to maintain his family of many sons, 88 years of his life passed by. That old man, Ajamila, had 10 sons, of whom the youngest was a baby named Narayan. Since Narayan was the youngest of all the sons, he was naturally very dear to both his father and his mother. Purport. The word Prabhya Yasaha indicates Ajamila's sinfulness, because although he was 88 years old, he had a very young child. According to Vedic culture, one should leave home as soon as he has reached 50 years of age. One should not live at home and go on producing children. Sex life is allowed for 25 years between the ages of 25 and 45, or at the most 50. After that, one should give up the habit of sex life and leave home as a vanaprastha, and then properly take sannyas. Ajamila, however, because of his association with a prostitute, lost all Brahminical culture and became most sinful, even in his so-called household life. 25. Because of the child's broken language and awkward movements, old Ajamila was very much attached to him. He always took care of the child and enjoyed the child's activities. Purport. Here it is clearly mentioned that the child Narayan was so young that he could not even speak or walk properly. Since the old man was very attached to the child, he enjoyed the child's activities. And because the child's name was Narayan, the old man always chanted the holy name of Narayan. Although he was referring to the small child and not to the original Narayan, the name of Narayan is so powerful that even by chanting his son's name, he was becoming purified. Harinama, Harinama, Hariname Kevalam. Srila Rupa Goswami has therefore declared that if one's mind is somehow or other attracted by the holy name of Krishna, tasmat kenyapayena manat Krishnena veshaye, one is on the path of liberation. It is customary in Hindu society for parents to give their children names like Krishna Das, Govinda Das, Narayana Das, and Vrindavana Das. Thus they chant the names of Krishna, Govinda, Narayana, and Vrindavana, and get the chants to be purified. When Ajamila chewed food and ate it, he called the child to chew and eat. And when he drank, he called the child to drink also. Always engaged in taking care of the child and calling his name Narayan. Ajamila could not understand that his own time was now exhausted and that death was upon him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is kind to the conditioned soul. Although this man completely forgot Narayan, he was calling his child, saying, Narayan, please come eat this food. Narayan, please come drink this milk. Somehow or other, therefore, he was attached to the name Narayan. This is called Amgyata Sukriti. Although calling for his son, he was unknowingly chanting the name of Narayan, and the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so transcendentally powerful that his chanting was being counted and recorded. The Supreme, although he calling for his son, I'm just going to repeat this, I was looking for where to start. Although calling for his son, he was unknowingly chanting the name of Narayan, and the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so transcendently powerful that his chanting was being counted and recorded. Counted and recorded. Haribol.
Haribol.
When the time of death arrived for the foolish Ajamila, he began thinking exclusively of his son Narayan. Purport in the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam 2.1.6, Shukadeva Goswami says, Etavan Sankhya Yoga Bhyam Sudharma Parinishtaya Janmalabha Parapumsam Ante Narayana Smitihi. The highest perfection of human life achieved either by complete knowledge of matter and spirit, by acquirement of mystic powers, or by perfect discharge of one's occupational duty, is to remember the personality of Godhead at the end of life. Somehow or other, Ajamil consciously or unconsciously chanted the name of Narayan at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smritihi. And therefore he became all perfect simply by concentrating his mind on the name of Narayan. It may also be concluded that Ajamil, who was the son of a Brahmana, was accustomed to worshipping Narayan in his youth, because in every Brahmana's house there is worship of the Narayana Shila. This system is still present in India. In a rigid Brahmana's house, there is Narayana Seva, worship of Narayan. Therefore, although the contaminated Ajamil was calling for his son by concentrating his mind on the holy name of Narayan, he remembered the Narayana he had very faithfully worshipped in his youth. In this regard, Srila Sridhar Swami expressed his verdict as follows. Quote, according to the Bhakti Siddhanta, it is to be analyzed that because Ajamil constantly chanted his son's name, Narayan, he was elevated to the platform of bhakti, although he did not know it. Similarly, Srila Viraraghava Acharya gives this opinion, quote, although at the time of death he was chanting the name of his son, he nevertheless concentrated his mind upon the holy name of Narayan. Srila Vijay Dvaj Tirtha gives a similar opinion. Directly or indirectly, Ajamil factually remembered Narayan at the time of death. Ante Narayana Smriti. Ajamil then saw three awkward persons with deformed bodily features, fierce, twisted faces and hair standing erect on their bodies. With ropes in their hands, they had come to take him away to the abode of Yamaraj. When he saw them, he was extremely bewildered, and because of attachment to his child, who was playing a short distance away, Ajamil began to call him loudly by his name. Thus, with tears in his eyes, he somehow or other chanted the holy name of Narayan. Purport. A person who performs sinful activities performs them with his body, mind, and words. Therefore, three order carriers from Yamaraj came to take Ajamil to Yamaraj's abode. Fortunately, even though he was referring to his son, Ajamil chanted the 4 syllables of the Harinam, Narayana, and therefore the order carriers of Narayan, the Vishnudutas, also immediately arrived there. Because Ajamil was extremely afraid of the ropes of Yamaraj, he chanted the Lord's name with tearful eyes. Actually, however, he never meant to chant the holy name of Narayan. He meant to call his son. My dear king, the order carriers of Vishnu, the Vishnudutas, immediately arrived when they heard the holy name of their master from the mouth of the dying Ajamil, who had certainly chanted without offense because he had chanted in complete anxiety. Purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks, Hare Kirtan Nisham Yapatan Kattam Putasya Vartur Nama Bruvataha. The order carriers of Lord Vishnu came because Ajamil had chanted the holy name of Narayan. They did not consider why he was chanting. While chanting the name of Narayan, Ajamil was actually thinking of his son. But simply because they heard Ajamil chanting the Lord's name, the order carriers of Vishnu, the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnudutas, immediately came for Ajamil's protection. Hare Kirtan is actually meant to glorify the holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities of the Lord. Ajamil, however, did not glorify the form, qualities, or paraphernalia of the Lord. He simply chanted the holy name. Nevertheless, that chanting was sufficient to cleanse him of all sinful activities. As soon as the Vishnudutas heard their master's name being chanted, they immediately came. In this regard, Srila Vijay Dvaj Tirtha remarks, quote, Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan because of his excessive attachment to his son. Nevertheless, because of his past good fortune in having rendered devotional service to Narayan, he apparently chanted the holy name in full devotional service and without offenses. Text 31. The order carriers of Yamaraj were snatching the soul from the core of the heart of Ajamila, the husband of the prostitute. But with resounding voices, the messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, forbade them to do so. Purport. A Vaishnav, one who has surrendered to the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, is always protected by Lord Vishnu's order carriers. Because Ajamila had chanted the holy name of Narayan, the Vishnu Dutas not only immediately arrived on the spot, but also at once ordered the Yamadutas not to touch him. By speaking with resounding voices, the Vishnu Dutas threatened to punish the Yamadutas if they continued trying to snatch Ajamila's soul from his heart. The order carriers of Yamaraj have jurisdiction over all sinful living entities, but the messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnu Dutas, are capable of punishing anyone, including Yamaraj, if he wrongs a Vaishnav. Materialistic scientists do not know where to find the soul within the body with their material instruments, but this verse clearly explains that the soul is within the core of the heart, Hridaya. It is from the heart that the Yamadutas were extracting the soul of Ajamila. Similarly, we learn that the Supersoul, Lord Vishnu, is also situated within the heart. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridaya shetnun junatishtati. In the Upanishads it is said that the Supersoul and the individual soul are living in the same tree of the body as two friendly birds. The Supersoul is said to be friendly because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind to the original soul that when the original soul transmigrates from one body to another, the Lord goes with him. Furthermore, according to the desire and karma of the individual soul, the Lord, through the agency of Maya, creates another body for him. The heart of the body is a mechanical arrangement, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 1861. Ishvara sarvabhutanam hridaya junatishtati ramayam sarvabhutani yantra rudani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities, who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. Yantra means a machine, such as an automobile. The driver of the machine of the body is the individual soul, who is also its director and proprietor. But the Supreme Proprietor is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's body is created through the agency of Maya, karmana daiva netrena. And according to one's activities in this life, another vehicle is created, again under the supervision of Daivi Maya. Daivi hiesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. At the appropriate time, one's next body is immediately chosen, and both the individual soul and the supersoul transfer to that particular bodily machine. This is the process of transmigration. During transmigration from one body to the next, the soul is taken away by the order carriers of Yamaraj and put into a particular type of hellish life, Naraka, in order to become accustomed to the condition in which he will live in his next body. And now we'll take a few reflections or questions.
I was just wondering, it said that the Vishnu Dutas were ready to punish the Yamadutas. I was just wondering what sort of punishment it would be. Is it because the Yamadutas commit an offense to a Vaishnava?
Yeah. It's their job to protect the Vaishnavas. In fact, we find in the Bhagavatam that there's always, although we may not see in them, if you've ever felt the presence of a guardian angel, it's not imagination. The Vishnu Dutas always accompany the Vaishnavas wherever they go to protect them. And they're at the beck and call. The Lord is so fond of the Vaishnavas that he sends his representatives to protect them in all circumstances. They're heavy. They're not playing around, you'll see. Okay.
Hare Kṛṣṇa Maharaj, what does it mean to surrender once?
What does it mean to surrender at once? It means to declare from your heart, my dear Lord Krishna, from this day forward, I'm yours. Would you like to try it?
Yes.
My dear Lord Krishna, from this day forward, I am yours. I surrender wholly and solely at your lotus feet. Please accept me. And now everyone, raise your hands as high as you can in the air and say, call out to Krishna. One time, just say Krishna. 1, 2, 3. Krishna! 1, 2.
As we're reading through this, I noticed there's one point that's being made, well, maybe many points, but there's one point that is particularly being made again and again in the purports, and again in the verses themselves. Just keeps being repeated that, and he wasn't even calling out to the Lord, he was just calling out to his son. I notice it's repeated many, many times. And it's like both Shukadeva Goswami and Srila Prabhupada are really stressing, it seems to me, that just see how powerful having a connection, any connection with the Lord's holy name is, that even incidentally chanting, Ajamila was saved by the Lord and his associates.
Brilliant observation. Do you have a point?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a question. So we know the 10 offenses of the holy name. We know the 11th offense is chanting inattentively, which is something I struggle with at times. And I'm thinking, he wasn't chanting attentively at all throughout his life. He was engaging with illicit affairs, but still he was able to be delivered. And I'm thinking, to the current context of where we are, if we were to chant inattentively, some would say that you would maintain the 4 regular principles but not advance. And so, how would that work in terms of reaching towards the ends of one life if one still struggles with that?
It was pointed out earlier that he was, in a sense, although he was engaged in sinful life, he was innocent. It wasn't that he was calling on the Lord to absolve him of sinful life. And because of his state of consciousness at that point, where he was innocently saying the holy name of the Lord, he was getting the benediction of the holy name. When we enter into the sadhana process and we're fully aware of the potency of the holy name and we're chanting the holy name, then the direction is that as practitioners who are aware of what the holy name is and what we're doing, we should pay full attention and not let our mind wander here and there. We should be aware that the Lord is coming to us in his name, and then we'll make advancement. If we're not attentive when we chant, then it's disrespectful to Krishna, we're calling when we're chanting the holy name. And you can experiment when you're talking to a friend, and then as you're speaking, just go like this. And they'll immediately say, oh, you have to go. You don't like me anymore anyway, right? Because breaking your attention when you're talking to somebody, even for a fraction of a second, breaks the connection. So there's an awareness that when we know that Krishna's there, and we're chanting purposefully to call him, we should respectfully give our attention to him. It's a categorically different mentality and situation between a Ajamila and a sadhaka who's chanting. Those offenses are to be avoided are there for those who have come to the point of surrendering to the holy name and wanting to come closer to Krishna. This is talked about by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his Harinam Chintamani, and I'm only turning only this way because I'm answering this question. I'm going to turn back and forth. He mentions the process of namabhasa. And namabhasa, for somebody who's completely blind to the truth, Rupa Goswami, first of all, I can think of, mentions it in his Namashakam where he says, Yada baso pyudnyan kavalita bhavadvanta vibhavo drisham tatvandanam abhidishati bhakti pranayanim. Which means that the namabhasa, the appearance of the Lord, as it is called in the poem translated as even the dim glimmer of the holy name. If somebody who's tattva andanam, they're blind to the truth. They don't know the truth of the holy name, but they're tattva andanam. Even if they chant the holy name or hear it, it's so powerful. Tattva andanam bhakti pranayanim. It gives them an inkling of what bhakti is, as Krishna's there present in the name, and they feel it. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about two levels of namabhasa. He says there's lower level and higher level namabhasa. Lower level means that sanketyam parihasam va, stobam helanam eva va, vaikunta nama grahana, asheshabham haram vidu. Actually, that's coming up. It mentions that people may chant the holy name for various reasons. They may say it because it's a assignation, means they start a shop and they call it the Krishna cupcake shop or something like that. And somebody may say it derisively, somebody may say it as musical entertainment, someone may say it as, what else is there? Jokingly. Like you're doing Harinam and they go, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa. All of those Hasheshaga, their unlimited sins are destroyed by that process of namabhasa. But there's only so far they can make advancement. They only come to a certain level. And then he says there's high level namabhasa. From that low level namabhasa they can get liberation. But high level namabhasa, he says, means, and Prabhupada speaks about this also, which I'll mention in a second, is that you're fully aware of the potency of the holy name, and you're chanting it trying to avoid the offenses. You know what the holy name is, you're chanting it. You're not chanting it purely, but you're trying to avoid the offenses. This is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur says is high-level namabhasa. And he said, anyone who's engaged in this high-level namabhasa will definitely come to the point of prema. The others, although they may incidentally hear the holy name, say the holy name, although they attain liberation, they won't go farther. So when you enter into the sadhana of chanting, there's a higher standard expected of you because you're going for a higher goal. Does that help? Makes me happy. Okay, you had your hand up. Oh, and I said about Prabhupada, he calls it offensive chanting. He says 3 stages. First stage is the stage of offensive chanting, then he calls it the clearing stage, then he calls it the pure stage. He simplifies that. And so he mentions the clearing stage means you're trying to avoid offenses when you chant as a sadhaka.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
In the beginning we were reading that a preacher can preach in any place even if it is hell. And I'm thinking that for a devotee, the real hell is to be without association and not being able for some reason to have proper sadhana. And, like being affected in the spiritual consciousness, that is the real hell for a devotee. So can a devotee preach in that hellish state?
When they feel afflicted by their own
Yes.
ineptitude in Krishna consciousness and
Yes.
they can't perform sadhana properly, can they preach?
Yes.
Yeah. I know I have had one passed away, 2 godbrothers I know, and both had fallen away from the regulative principles. One of them was a dedicated heroin addict, and the other one was dabbling in drugs and came over to visit the dedicated heroin addict. And when he got to the dedicated heroin addict's house, he saw that he was still doing artiques. And he had pictures up. The other one was thinking, well, maybe I should do anything because I'm so fallen. And the dabbler got so inspired by the full-time heroin addict and his just going on with this practice of devotional service that he got straightened out. He came back and said, wow, if he's gonna do his sadhana, I'm gonna do my sadhana. And so sometimes people who are down in their sadhana and they're not able to practice properly and who are eager to get back even though they can't do it at the time, they can be very effective in preaching to other people. As other people really appreciate their sincerity and that they're trying to get back to that position. I mean, what's better? Let's say somebody lives in a brahmachari ashram in Vrindavan and is thinking, I wish I could go to New Delhi and watch a video. I mean, not a Siddhanta video, but just like some Bollywood thing or whatever. Or somebody who works at a video shop and is thinking, I wish I could be in the ashram in Vrindavan. That's a quiz. Which one you pick? Yeah. So much is internal that Krishna knows the heart of the devotee, and therefore there's so many admonitions and directions Krishna gives about falling down, not the least of which is apichet sudaracharo. And I quoted last night the verse in which Krishna says, Jata shada makatasu nirvina sarvakarmasu, etc. It's a long verse, but in it, as we discussed yesterday, Krishna says, even if the person's not able to fully follow everything. In fact, may I have a Bhagavad Gita? He knows what I'm going to quote. Does anybody have a Bhagavad Gita? Is that a wrong question to ask at a Hare Kṛṣṇa temple? In the Bhagavad Gita 3.31, if someone wants to look it up on their phone before we find a Bhagavad Gita in this room, I will read you the purport, and I think it'll, as usual, make the point 10 times better. Thank you for being so expert at everything you do. This is from 331. Ready? Everyone ready?
Yes.
Why aren't I convinced? Ready?
Yes.
All right. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow this teaching faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruit of actions. Purport. The injunction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the essence of all Vedic wisdom, and therefore is eternally true without exception. As the Vedas are eternal, so this truth of Krishna consciousness is also eternal. One should have firm faith in this injunction without envying the Lord. There are many philosophers who write comments on the Bhagavad Gita, but have no faith in Krishna. They will never be liberated from the bondage of fruit of action. But an ordinary man with firm faith in the eternal injunctions of the Lord, even though unable to execute such orders, becomes liberated from the bondage of the law of karma. In the beginning of Krishna consciousness, one may not fully discharge the injunctions of the Lord, but because one is not resentful of this principle and works sincerely without consideration of defeat and hopelessness, he will surely be promoted to the stage of pure Krishna consciousness. Does that help? You're welcome. One more? Yes.
Hare Krishna. In relation to the point on offenseless chanting, text 30 stood out to me, in which it said that Ajamila had certainly chanted without offense because he had chanted in complete anxiety. And I was just thinking about how to maintain a healthy sense of anxiety so that we can also chant offensively.
Well, one way is mentioned in the 10th Canto, 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam. And there's extensive commentary about the situation that Devaki was in before the Lord appeared apparently from her womb. She was actually Krishna was transferred from the the mind and heart of Vasudeva to her heart, not an ordinary birth, as we all know. Nonetheless, she had this maternal instinct and was thinking that her child-to-be was in grave danger. And therefore she was always afraid and anxiety. And there, still Prabhupada's purports, and he quotes extensively from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who mentions that one should always have a healthy fear of Maya, that one might be dragged away from one's Krishna consciousness. And he said this fear is purifying. In fact, the 6 sons that appeared first, called the Shadgarbha Asuras, from the womb of Devaki, represent Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mada, Moha, and Matsarya. These are the enemies of the person trying to advance on the spiritual path. And he said they're killed by this intense fear that one has of material existence. One should therefore maintain that anxiety. Find in the prayers of Pṛthu Mahārāja, when Lord Nrsimhadeva appeared, everyone was afraid. In fact, it's mentioned there that the elephants who protect the various directions of the universe, when they heard the roaring of the Lord, they ran. And everyone else was afraid as well. And when Prahlad starts to pray to Lord Nrsimhadeva, he says, Trastos meham kripanavatsala dushahogra samsara chakra kadanad prasatam branita vadha karma birad shatami tengli mulam pritopa bharga shayanam vaisesika danu. Which means that he said, my Lord, I'm not afraid of you. Everyone else is. What I'm afraid of is your Maya. And that I'll be grabbed and pulled back down again. And there again, Prabhupada mentions the importance of this healthy fear of Maya. And Prabhupada reportedly once said that the problem with my disciples is they're not afraid enough of the material world. So that's something that's ubiquitous, that is Maya. So we can be aware of that and have that sense of fear that I may unwittingly even be pulled away again from Krishna consciousness. And chant with that sense that Krishna, please protect me. Does that help? Okay. Last one. Over here. 1, 2. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Text 16, towards the end, says, following on what they said, that a devotee is not afraid. So wherever he is, he simply wants to remember Krishna. Devotees are unafraid. Wherever he is sent, simply wants to remember Krishna, whatever he may be. Such a devotee is unconcerned with hell or heaven. He simply attached to service to Krishna. Now this is what I want to. When a devotee is put in the hellish conditions, he accepts them as Krishna's mercy. He does not protest, oh, I'm such a great devotee of Krishna. Why have I been put into this misery? Instead he thinks this is Krishna's mercy. Could you talk a little bit more about this? I'm struggling in this.
When we have perspective that I'm passing through this life with the rare opportunity to please Krishna, that the material world is endlessly mutable and anything can happen at any moment. When we give up all sense of entitlement, that is, that things should go well, and we have a sense that by serving Krishna, everything else is done. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohi Surida Nishtre Krishna Bhakti Koila Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. This is faith, means there is nothing else to do except serve Krishna. That's the mainstay of my life. Then whatever situation one's in, when one makes the best of it. Remarkably, devotees do quite well in hellish conditions, actually. We may fret over the concept that what if I'm put in a hellish condition, but once we are, we know what to do. We chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. This is evidenced by multiple times, and maybe there's people in this room that have been through this, of being tossed in jail. Being tossed in jail is not the most pleasant thing in the world that most people look forward to. But when devotees are thrown in jail, they just start a kirtan inside. We have historical evidence of this, of devotees being arrested, tossed in jail, and going on chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa. We have evidence of devotees being thrown in the Tihar jail in Delhi. And who ended up making friends with a lot of people because everyone said, oh, there's a saintly person in here, and people brought him avocados. So I got a lot of friends, heroin addicts, people thrown in jail. But this happens, and when you actually get in a hellish condition, it's actually better. Heavenly conditions are worse. Because when you're in a heavenly condition, you think, I should be enjoying here and I'm protected. And then you're not. You feel terrible. And when you're in the worst of conditions possible in the material world, you think, well, it can't get any worse than this. I might as well just chant Hare Kṛṣṇa. And then you feel relief. And you feel happy because it's not the situation or it's not the place that's hellish. It's what's in our mind. And you can be in a so-called heavenly place and be in hell in your mind. And you can be in hell. That's the verse. We heard it. Narayana praksharve nakutashthana pipiti swarga pavarga narakeshu. That's it. Apituli artha darshana. It's tulya. It's equal for the devotee because all they're looking for is where I can do service. We were in Southern California, near Irvine, California, with a group of devotees going shop to shop. One of my favorite things, just like door to door, only everyone's home and everybody has money. And as we were going along, we saw a bar. Can devotees go in a bar? Yes or no? Okay. Well, we decided to go in. And when we, 7 of us, and as I approached the door of the bar, there was a guy taking a breather, I guess, on the outside, leaning on the outside the door. And as soon as I got up to the door, I didn't say anything. He just pulled out $20 and gave it to me. And of course, inside, there's a lot to say about what happened in there, which was sanguine. But when we left, I turned around some of the other devotees and I said, what's with that guy? Why did he give me $20? I didn't say anything. And he said he felt guilty. When he saw the devotees going, he saw his life flash before his eyes and said, what am I doing here? I might as well do something with my money. When you're in hellish conditions, sometimes you meet the nicest people. And we really have nothing to fear. When we give up our idea that life's going to go well here in the material world, there is no such thing. It's bhava. It's always changing. We can't hold on to anything. And when we just depend on Krishna and say, it's Krishna's mercy, whatever happens, and all paraphernalia in the universe is there for me to use in Krishna's service one way or another, then there's no fear. And whenever there is a sense of fear, the Bhagavatam says in the first chapter, Apana samsrutim gaurandya nama vipashogranan tatasadyo vimucheta yabipeti swayam bayam. You know what the verse says you should do? Ready? Krishna! That's exactly what it says. It says anytime a devotee is in a fearful situation, call out Krishna, and Prabhupada says in the purport, all danger will be gone, because Krishna and his name are non-different. He's right there to protect you. So this is our chance in this life to walk through the shadows and keep chanting Hare Kṛṣṇa and go back to Godhead. And it's only going to be a few more minutes. In geological time, we're all here for 2, 3, 5, 10 minutes maximum. That's it. So better get cracking. Last one, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. In this case, Ajamila was chanting the names of Narayan because he, out of love, he named his son Narayan, and then at his moment, final moments, he remembered his son, and then we know the outcome. What happens when someone chants the name of Narayan, referring to a person or man-made god who are named Narayan and other incarnations of Krishna? What happens if somebody, followers of sect or institution, would chant the names of Narayan but referring to a person as God?
So this is māyāvādī. It's a categorical mistake. there are what Krishna calls in the Bhagavad Gita tattvas. Tattva means to understand tat. That's a demonstrative pronoun, tat. It's the exact same word in English as that. You just added H to it and you have the same word. It comes from Sanskrit when you say that. So when you point to the living entity and you say, that's God, you made a categorical mistake. It's not God. And if you adhere to it, even after understanding proper philosophy, it's an offense. The only kind of chanting that doesn't have an effect of liberation is māyāvādī. That's in the Harinam Chintamani. And therefore, we have in our Shastra this admonition, Vaishnava mukund girnam putam harikatam ritam shravana naiva kartavyam sarpochishta yatapaya, which means that when somebody who's non-Vaishnava, means a māyāvādī, chants Hare Kṛṣṇa, you shouldn't listen to it because it's not the same name. And he compares it in this verse to milk, which is a nourishing substance having been touched by the lips of a serpent. You put out a glass of milk, a little snake crawls in at night, helps himself to your glass of milk, and the next morning you fire it up on the stove and you're drinking poison. So this is the exception. Now, someone may say, how does that work? And the way it works is explained in the 87th chapter of the 10th Canto of the Bhagavatam in the prayers personified Vedas. As the question comes up, how is it that transcendental sound can be transmitted through a material medium? After all, when you hear Hare Kṛṣṇa, that's a percussive sound. It's coming through the air and it's touching your eardrum and it's vibrating and it goes through the auditory nerve, and then you're able to make some association. So how do you distinguish a material sound from a spiritual sound, or how are those two different? And they're different, say the personified Vedas, because Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and he controls all energies. And he's fully cognizant of why you're chanting. And therefore, when a pure devotee chants, Pṛthu Mahārāja says in the Fourth Canto of the Bhagavatam, there's a different effect than when a māyāvādī chants. Māyāvādī poison, Pṛthu Mahārāja says, when a pure devotee with love in his heart, or her heart, for Krishna chants the holy name, then that holy name, he says poetically, touches Krishna's lotus feet. His lotus feet are besmeared with saffron, and that's in the paste that the devotees put on the Lord's lotus feet. And then the sound vibration is mixed with saffron mercy particles. So when you hear that sound vibration by Krishna's divine arrangement from a pure devotee, then your heart changes and you say, I think I'll surrender to Krishna. When a māyāvādī chants, and they think they're chanting to become God, or all demigods are God, are the same, then the sound vibration is contaminating. And that's why. Om Tat Sat. And now we have 9 minutes left, right? So,
39.
39. Hey, that's pretty good. Ready? Do you need to stand up for 1 minute? Let's do. Let's stand up and reach to the ceiling and say Gauranga. 1, 2, 3. Continuing at text number 32. When the order carriers of Yamaraj, the son of the sun god, were thus forbidden, they replied, "Who are you, sirs, that you have the audacity to challenge the jurisdiction of Yamaraj?" Purport: according to the sinful activities of Ajamila, He was within the jurisdiction of Yamaraj, the supreme judge, appointed to consider the sins of the living entities. When forbidden to touch Ajamila, the order carriers of Yamaraj were surprised because they had never been hindered in the execution of their duty by anyone within the three worlds. Dear sirs, whose servants are you? Where have you come from, and why are you forbidding us to touch the body of Ajamila? Are you demigods from the heavenly planets? Are you sub-demigods? Or are you the best of devotees? Purport. The most significant word used in this verse is Siddha Satama, which means the best of the perfect. The Bhagavad Gita 7.3, in the Bhagavad Gita 7.3, it is said, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye. Out of millions of persons, one may try to become siddha, perfect. Or, in other words, self-realized. A self-realized person knows that he is not the body, but a spiritual soul, aham brahmasmi. At the present moment, practically everyone is unaware of this fact. But one who understands this has attained perfection and is therefore called siddha. When one understands that the soul is part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, and one thus engages in the devotional service of the Supreme Soul, one becomes Siddha Satama. One is then eligible to live in the Vaikuntha planets or Krishna Loka. The word Siddha Satama therefore refers to a liberated pure devotee. Since the Yamadutas are servants of Yamaraj, who is also one of the Siddha Satamas, they knew that a Siddha Satama is above the demigods and sub-demigods, and, indeed, above all the living entities within this material world. The Yamadutas therefore inquired why the Vishnudutas were present where a sinful man was going to die. It should also be noted that Ajamila was not yet dead, for the Yamadutas were trying to snatch the soul from his heart. They could not take the soul, however, and therefore Ajamila was not yet dead. This will be revealed in later verses. Ajamila was simply in an unconscious state when the argument was in progress between the Yamadutas and the Vishnudutas. The conclusion of the argument was to be a decision regarding who would claim the soul of Ajamila. 34 through 36. The order carriers of Yamaraj said, "Your eyes are just like the petals of lotus flowers, dressed in yellow silken garments, decorated with garlands of lotuses, and wearing very attractive helmets on your heads and earrings on your ears. You all appear fresh and youthful. Your 4 long arms are decorated with bows and quivers of arrows, and with swords, clubs, conch shells, discs, and lotus flowers. Your effulgence has dissipated the darkness of this place with extraordinary illumination. Now, sirs, why are you obstructing us?" Purport. Before even being introduced to a foreigner, one becomes acquainted with him through his dress, bodily features, and behavior, and can thus understand his position. Therefore, when the Yamadutas saw the Vishnudutas for the first time, they were surprised. They said, "By your bodily features you appear to be very exalted gentlemen, and you have such celestial power that you have dissipated the darkness of this material world with your own effulgences. Why then should you endeavor to stop us from executing our duty?" It will be explained that the Yamadutas, the order carriers of Yamaraj, mistakenly considered Ajamila sinful. They did not know that although he was sinful throughout his entire life, he was purified by constantly chanting the holy name of Narayan. In other words, unless one is a Vaishnava, one cannot understand the activities of a Vaishnava. The dress and bodily features of the residents of Vaikuntha Loka are properly described in these verses. The residents of Vaikuntha, who are decorated with garlands and yellow silken garments, have 4 arms holding various weapons. Thus they conspicuously resemble Lord Vishnu. They have the same bodily features as Narayan, because they have attained the liberation of Sarupya. But they nevertheless act as servants. All the residents of Vaikuntha Loka know perfectly well that their master is Narayan or Krishna, and that they all are his servants. They are all self-realized souls who are nitya mukta, everlastingly liberated. Although they could conceivably declare themselves Narayan or Vishnu, they never do so. They always remain Krishna conscious and serve the Lord faithfully. Such is the atmosphere of Vaikuntha Loka. Similarly, one who learns the faithful service of Lord Krishna through the Krishna consciousness movement will always remain in Vaikuntha Loka and have nothing to do with the material world. Text 37. Shukadeva Goswami continued, being thus addressed by the messengers of Yamaraj, the servants of Vasudeva smiled and spoke the following words in voices as deep as the sound of rumbling clouds. Purport: the Yamadutas were surprised to see that the Vishnudutas, although polite, were hindering the rule of Yamaraj. Similarly, the Vishnudutas were also surprised that the Yamadutas, although claiming to be servants of Yamaraj, the supreme judge of religious principles, were unaware of the principles of religious action. Thus the Vishnudutas smiled, thinking, what is this nonsense they are speaking? If they are actually servants of Yamaraj, they should know that Ajamila is not a suitable candidate for them to carry off. 38. The blessed messengers of Lord Vishnu, the Vishnudutas, said, if you are actually servants of Yamaraj, you must explain to us the meaning of religious principles and the symptoms of irreligion. Purport: this inquiry by the Vishnudutas to the Yamadutas is most important. A servant must know the instructions of his master. The servants of Yamaraj claimed to be carrying out his orders, and therefore the Vishnudutas very intelligently asked them to explain the symptoms of religious and irreligious principles. A Vaishnava knows these principles perfectly well because he is well acquainted with the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord says, Sarva dharman prityaja mamekam sharanam braja. Give up all other varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. Therefore, surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the actual principle of religion. Those who have surrendered to the principles of material nature instead of to Krishna are all impious, regardless of their material position. Unaware of the principles of religion, they do not surrender to Krishna, and therefore they are considered sinful rascals, the lowest of men, and fools bereft of all knowledge. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, Namang dushkritinu mudha prapadyante naradama mayaya pratyajnana asuram bhavamashritaha. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. One who has not surrendered to Krishna does not know the true principle of religion. Otherwise, he would have surrendered. The question posed by the Vishnudutas was very suitable. One who represents someone else must fully know that person's mission. The devotees in the Krishna consciousness movement must therefore be fully aware of the mission of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. Otherwise, they will be considered foolish. All devotees, especially preachers, must know the philosophy of Krishna consciousness so as not to be embarrassed and insulted when they preach. 39. We're at 39, right? What is the process of punishing others? Who are the actual candidates for punishment? Are all karmis engaged in fruitive activities punishable, or only some of them? Purport: one who has the power to punish others should not punish everyone. There are innumerable living entities, the majority of whom are in the spiritual world and are nitya mukta, everlastingly liberated. There is no question of judging these liberated living beings. Only a small fraction of the living entities, perhaps 1/4, are in the material world. And the major portion of the living entities in the material world around 8 million of the 8,400,000 forms of life are lower than human beings. They are not punishable, for under the laws of material nature, they are automatically evolving. Human beings who are advanced in consciousness are responsible, but not all of them are punishable. Those engaged in advanced pious activities are beyond punishment. Only those who engage in sinful activities are punishable. Therefore, the Vishnu-dutas particularly inquired about who is punishable and why Yamaraj has been designated to discriminate between who is punishable and who is not. How is one to be judged? What is the basic principle of authority? These are the questions raised by the Vishnu-dutas. The Yamadutas replied, that which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes dharma. Veda pranihito dharmo yadharmas tad viparyaya Vedo narayana sakshat swayambhuriti shushuma. The Yamadutas replied, that which is prescribed in the Vedas constitutes dharma, the religious principles, and the opposite of that is irreligion. The Vedas are directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, and are self-born. This we have heard from Yamaraj. Purport. The servants of Yamaraj replied quite properly. They did not manufacture principles of religion or irreligion. Instead, they explained that they had heard from the authority Yamaraj, Mahajanu yena gatasa panta. One should follow the Mahajan, the authorized person. Yamaraj is one of 12 authorities. Therefore, the servants of Yamaraj, the Yamadutas, replied with perfect clarity when they said, Shushruma, we have heard. The members of modern civilization manufactured defective religious principles through speculative concoction. This is not dharma. They do not know what is dharma and what is adharma. Therefore, as stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, dharma projito kaitavotra, dharma not supported by the Vedas is rejected from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Dharma. Bhagavata Dharma comprises only that which is given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavata Dharma is Sarvadharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharadam Vraja. Bhagavad Gita 18:66. One must accept the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender to Him and whatever He says. That is Dharma. Arjuna, for example, thinking that violence was a Dharma, was declining to fight, but Krishna urged him to fight. Arjuna abided by the orders of Krishna, and therefore he is actually a dharmi, because the order of Krishna is Dharma. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, Vedaishta sarver aham eva vedya. The real purpose of Veda, knowledge, is to know me. One who knows Krishna perfectly is liberated. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yo veti tatvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sarjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. One who understands Krishna and abides by his order is a candidate for returning home back to Godhead. It may be concluded that dharma, religion, refers to that which is ordered in the Vedas, and adharma, irreligion, refers to that which is not supported in the Vedas. Dharma is not actually manufactured by Narayan. As stated in the Vedas, Asya mahito bhutasya nishvastitam etad yad rig veda iti. The injunctions of dharma emanate from the breathing of Narayan, the supreme living entity. Narayan exists eternally and breathes eternally, and therefore dharma, the injunctions of Narayan, also exist eternally. Srila Madhvacharya, the original Acharya for those who belong to the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, says, Vedanam pratamo bhakta harir eva yato vibhu ato vishvatmaka veda ityahur veda vadina. The transcendental words of the Vedas emanated from the mouth of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the Vedic principles should be understood to be Vaishnava principles, because Vishnu is the origin of the Vedas. The Vedas contain nothing besides the instructions of Vishnu, and one who follows the Vedic principles is a Vaishnava. The Vaishnava is not a member of a manufactured community of this material world. A Vaishnava is a real knower of the Vedas. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaischa sarver ahameva vedya. 41. The supreme cause of all causes, Narayan, is situated in his own abode in the spiritual world, but nevertheless he controls the entire cosmic manifestation according to the three modes of material nature, Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamogun. In this way, all living entities are awarded different qualities, different names such as Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, different duties according to the Varnashrama institution, and different forms. Thus, Narayan is the cause of the entire cosmic manifestation. And now we'll take a few questions or reflections. And I stress a few. 1, 2.
Hare Krishna. I was just wondering if one chant the name of Narayan is being liberated by the Vishnu Dutta or come personally to take him back home, who is coming to get one chants the name of Krishna?
Who will come?
Yes.
There's no indication otherwise that it wouldn't be the Vishnu Duttas. Yeah. Prabhu?
I was also, yesterday I think we learned that once someone takes to this path in the variations of karmas, it stops enacting. And even if something punishable happens, and that's why he knows mercy to teach us something. So in this case I was wondering, for Ajamila, he was a past person and then he fell down. Is that a way to understand that it was the Lord's teaching to him in some way, so that he make further progress? And second part is
what was the teaching? What would have been the teaching in your scenario, in the question? How would how would the Lord be educating him?
To remember him, maybe.
So what you said, if I understood correctly, you said he was chanting the name of Narayan, therefore he was indemnified from sin, but he went on in living in sinful life. Mm-hmm. And the question was that didactic on the part of the Lord that he was trying to show him something?
Yeah.
No, it's just the momentum of his material life. Of course, the Lord's always trying to show us something. He's talking to us through the Shastra, internally as the super soul, and externally as the sadhus. He always wants to teach us something, but when one is, in the case of Ajamila, the point that's being made here is that although he was going on with sinful life, it was more or less by momentum. And the example that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives is a snake with no teeth. It looked like the snake's biting. He looks like he's performing sinful activities, but it's already a done deal. He's been indemnified from the sin, so although the snake is biting again and again with no teeth, it's not having a poisonous effect. That's the main point. Okay? And now we're going to sing the Shad Goswami Ashtaka.